Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I'm an assistant professor in natural language processing at Coventry University in the Center for Computational Sciences and Mathematical Modeling. And Vasile Palade is my team lead, and Ali Reza, who will be the third speaker probably, is my collaborator. And I also collaborate with Casper on something else. He will be the second one. And the first talk is about some of our recent work towards human-effortless systematic review automation. This is one of the main research directions currently I'm doing with my PhD student Opeoluwa, and also co-supervised with Vasile. This is just our center. And basically, a systematic review is knowledge synthesis of the available evidence, all the available evidence about a research topic, which is extracted from all the available publications about that research topic. It is the highest form of knowledge in science. And to do systematic review, we need to first retrieve the publications from all the databases and then select the papers that match our selection criteria. And basically, it follows a principled pipeline, which is quite tedious. This slide just shows that there are three parallel paradigms currently in recent years. One is called AI-based literature review, or systematic review, or computational literature review, and they are all more or less the same thing. And the pipeline looks like this. So first, we have a systematic review protocol written by humans, which defines the research question to study. And then we devise the search strategies and to retrieve papers from scientific databases. After that, the abstracts of the papers or the full text of the papers will be screened so that only a very small portion of the publications will be retained for further analysis. Then after that, the quality of the studies will be assessed, and the high quality and the data will be extracted from high quality papers, and then the data extracted will be synthesized for meta-analysis and finally reporting. This is a very long and tedious process. Currently, I'm doing research in the steps in red rectangles about screening the publications and about quality assessment. So this talk is about citation screening abstracts. Yeah, so basically systematic review is very robust because it follows a principle or publication protocol called PRISMA. So we need to record the number of records screened for relevance, which is the purpose of abstract screening. After that, full text screening might be taken to further reduce the number of publications, and then quality and the critical appraisal. But we are focusing on abstract and citation screening, which means from the tens of thousands of initial studies retrieved from the scientific publication databases, we need to retain the most relevant papers about the research topic we are studying. And this is an example. First, we have some selection criteria for the papers to be included in the systematic review. Here, the lower part of the slide shows an example of a PubMed publication. And I also highlighted the information, different aspects of the information or selection criteria to be matched, and also the corresponding part of the abstract which matches the selection criteria in different colors. So two human annotators need to read through each abstract one by one and reach the consensus about whether this publication should be included or should be excluded from the systematic review. So this is a very tedious process. So I also made a very simple estimation of the cost. It's very costly. For example, for 9,000 papers, on average, if we recruit 2 early career researchers or PhD researchers or postdoc researchers to annotate the papers, probably we may take 8 minutes, but this is a little bit longer than expected because this is the number got from the early career researchers after survey. And in the end, if we pay the early career researchers as human annotators at the lowest rate, UK rate per hour, the total cost for doing a systematic review with 9,000 papers is about 20,000 UK pounds. So it's very costly. So what we want to do is to automate this manual screening stage. So yeah, so we want to develop a machine learning algorithm to help us decide which papers to be excluded and which papers to be included. So, and somehow this automation can be semi-automation because we do need some human verification of the machine learning results. And also at the initial stage, we also need to annotate some initial set of samples to learn a machine learning classifier. The challenges are very huge. For example, it requires a high or total recall of all the relevant publications. For example, in this pipeline, we have 9,300 papers to be screened, and after abstract screening, 158 abstracts are relevant or should be included for further analysis. So the machine learning algorithm should be able to identify all of these publications or most of these publications. So this is a high or total recall problem. And also there's an extreme data imbalance. The data imbalance ratio is extremely huge in this case. And another challenge is cold start problem. At the beginning, no publication is annotated whether it's included or relevant or not relevant. So there are no initial annotations. This is a huge challenge for this problem, particular problem. And also there's no generalizability. So for each systematic review, a bespoke screening model must be developed. So we are trying to, at this moment, we are trying to solve all these challenges one by one. Yeah, this is the general machine learning pipeline. So we start with some candidate studies retrieved from scientific databases, and then we randomly choose an initial subset for human annotation. And this initial subset should be as small as possible. And there is no good way to choose which samples for human annotation. So currently the standard way is to randomly select the initial subset, but we can have some better ways we will introduce later. And after getting the initial human annotations, we can follow the traditional machine learning pipeline to train a classifier and then use the classifier to make decisions on the remaining and do human evaluation. However, because the initial classifier may be a weak classifier, so typically we will go into an active learning cycle to improve the classifier iteratively. Now, there are challenges. As I said, the first challenge is the cold start problem. And this initial subset must be annotated by humans. So this amount of labor time is not reducible. So we hope to choose whether we have a good method to choose a good subset of human annotations to train a better classifier. That is a research problem. So the quality of the initial subset is important, but this problem is not explored at all. And the second challenge is that this is a total recall or high recall problem. And at the same time, it also requires a high precision. So usually in machine learning, we will make a trade-off between recall and a high precision. But in this problem, we need to retain high recall, but at the same time, achieve high precision. So we need to achieve both objectives, the competing objectives at the same time. So currently we are developing methods to solve both problems. Yeah, so I'll skip this. Now the first contribution we made is we explore the sentence embeddings for citation screening. So basically, the titles and abstracts of the papers will be concatenated and sent to a sentence transformer or an instructor, which is another type of sentence transformer. Then the embeddings of the titles and abstracts will be generated, and then we train a support vector machine classifier as the citation screener. Just to recall that, what's the difference between sentence BERT or sentence transformer and a BERT? So in BERT, the training objective is called masked language modeling. So we randomly mask out some words in the sentence, and the model will be trained to predict the words that have been masked out. But in sentence BERT, the BERT models will be used for encoding the sentences, and the sentence representation will be pulled from the word representations. And it works on pairs of sentences to calculate the similarity between the sentences. So this is sentence BERT is extremely useful for generating or understanding the meaning of the sentence or a piece of text, not only the words. And this is our rationale. So we use the sentence BERT to calculate the similarities, between different groups of papers, the included papers and excluded papers. And we found that the papers that should be included always appear at the right top corner of this space. So this gives us a feeling that sentence BERT is a more suitable method for generating feature representations. And I just directly jump to our initial results. So using sentence BERT to train a support vector machine classifier, we can slightly beat the most state-of-the-art deep learning methods. But in our method, we don't need to fine-tune a deep learning model. We just use sentence BERT and train a classifier in a proper way. And this result is quite promising. The second problem is the current machine learning setup is unsuitable for citation screening. I need to explain this a bit because the current setup was designed by the initial or seminal work of this type of research. So 50% of the training samples are used for training and 50% for testing. So the amount of work that is reduced is only calculated on the test set. But in practice, this means this 50% or half of the samples used for training cannot be reduced. So humans must give annotations to 50% of the samples. Then we did some initial study. We tried to reduce the number of training samples to see what performances we can get. Obviously, it shows that we don't need 50% for training, but using like 20%, 30%, or 10%, we can also get reasonable results. So this gives us feeling that if we can choose a good initial set as training samples and also train a good machine learning classifier, then the total number of time can be reduced. So we can increase the amount of time that can be reduced. So this is our second research. In our second research, we try to explore large language models for zero-shot citation screening, and we cast this problem into question answering. Why do we do this? Because the systematic review, as I said, the systematic review starts with an inclusion criteria. And this inclusion criteria contains different aspects of information that need to be matched against the abstracts. So for example, this is a short paragraph about the inclusion criteria about one systematic review topic. And if we ask ChatGPT to generate 5 questions from the inclusion criteria, these are the 5 questions. And then we also try to ask ChatGPT to answer all these questions and give a score of the abstract in the end. So the whole pipeline looks like this. So we start with the selection criteria, and we use large language model to generate the selection criteria questions from the paragraph selection criteria. And each question will be answered by a language model, either negative or positive, and there will be also some explanations of the answer generated by the language model. And then the answers for each selection criterion question will be scored either in a hard way or in a soft way, and finally the scores will be ensembled or combined to give the final decision. And this is our initial result. And we can see that the amount of time, so WSS is the work that can be saved from sampling. So the amount of work that can be saved significantly improves. So we also did a large-scale experiment, and we have several variants of our method. I will not go into the details, but basically the result shows that if we only use the top 5% of the papers, and 50% of the time can be saved. If we only use 10% of the top ranked papers by ChatGPT, then around 60% of the human annotation can be saved. So this is quite promising, and we also need to note that our method is 100% zero shot, without any active learning, without any fine-tuning of the language model. So I think the result is quite promising, and the performance is very close to or even beat the fine-tuning methods in some cases. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.